Good evening. I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about what's the best way for people to prepare for exercise. Historically, we always called this warming up. So you'd say to someone, go and do a warm up in a gym. And typically what they might do is they'll jump on a bike or a running machine, maybe run for 5 minutes, maybe a couple of arm swings. And then the next thing would be, let's say they're doing a bench press. They'd get on the bench press and start pressing, building up from a lighter weight to a heavier weight. Okay, so that might resonate with some of you. It's certainly how I used to warm up probably 5-10 years ago. But I wanted to tell you there is a better way to warm up. So if you're not doing this, then this might really help you in the gym or even in your sport. It might help you get more out of your training. It might help you lift heavier weights and generally just make you feel better. Okay, so this method is called RAMP. That's R-A-M-P. Okay, and each letter stands for a different component of the warm-up. Now this came from originally strength conditioning and it's used in many sports, but it also works equally well in the gym environment. Okay, so just to break that down and give you a little bit of detail about each component of that. So R stands for raise the body temperature. So this might be what we would classically call our old warm-up. So you might jump on, the air bike, the bike, spinning bike, the treadmill, row machine, grab a skipping rope, and you perform that activity, let's say, for up to maybe 5 minutes until you've elevated your core temperature till you start feeling warm, maybe a little bit of sweat. And what you want at this point is you want your blood to be flowing around the body and you want your muscles to feel a little bit more elastic. Okay, so that's component one. Oh, I should add actually on that as well, it doesn't have to be a cardiovascular machine. It can be, if you play a sport, it could be an aspect of your sport. It could be things like it could be jumping on the spot, it could be shuttle runs, it could be some sort of football kind of drill, but anything that elevates your temperature and achieves that goal of raising your body temperature, elevating your heart rate. Okay. So next we go into A, which is activate muscles. Now I'm going to throw a little curveball here because although the acronym is RAMP, I actually prefer it to do RMAP. So I'm going to tell you why. So we're going to say the next thing we're going to do is M, which is mobility and movement. Now this talks about really your generic gross dynamic stretches. So this could be things like leg swings, could be shoulder circles, and it can also be your integrated movement patterns. So things like squatting, lunging, Cossack squats. So things with a large range of motion and movements that are what we would call compound movements that involve a lot of muscle groups and more than one joint possibly. Okay, so this is what we do for mobility and movement. And then we can go more specifically into particular stretches. So I showed a stretch the other day on YouTube called a couch stretch. So you can incorporate things like couch stretches. If you know the greatest stretch in the world, if you know things like laying, thoracic rotations, all of these things can be put in this category. And the reason why they go second, in my opinion, is because we're opening ourselves up. We're opening our hip joint, we're opening our shoulders, which makes our muscles much more accessible for when we come to activate them. So just as a real simple example, imagine you've got tight hips and you try and do a glute bridge. Well, you're not going to be very successful at it because your glutes aren't available. Your hips are tight and they prevent you from accessing or activating your glutes. So once we've mobilized things first and we've opened our hips through things like leg swings and couch stretch, then our hips become more open and then our glutes become more accessible. So then we come to number 3, which is going to be activation. So I've kind of given you a clue there. This is where we activate our different muscle groups. So what I would say, non-negotiable in here, is to make sure you do at least 3 activations. They are glutes, your upper back, and your core. Okay. Glutes I would tackle in 2 parts. I would think about your basic glute bridges to get the glute max, your main glute muscles fired. And then I would incorporate some banded glute exercises, which I put a video on earlier, which are things like lateral walking, monster walking. Okay, so then you're going to activate the full spectrum of your glute muscles. And then I said upper back. So upper back would be things like face pulls, pull aparts, because these muscles are crucial. These muscles in the upper back for engaging the shoulder blades, keeping our shoulders healthy, but also they're fantastic for having good posture as well. But that will essentially allow you to perform better when it comes to pushing exercises as well. And the third one was core. Now you can choose however you want to activate your core. It could be planks. There's lots of versions of that. It could be ab wheel. It could be side planks. They're a good bang for your buck exercise. So they're your three kind of core areas, I'd say. Always activate those, and then think about activating the areas of the muscles you're specifically going to work in that session. So let's say you're going to deadlift that session, then you would want to think about also activating hamstrings. You want to, obviously done the core, I would suggest you activate your lats. That could be through, a straight arm pull down with a band. But I'm not really going to go through all the different activations, but this is where you activate muscles that are going to be specifically used in your training schedule ahead of you. Okay, and then finally, so that's our RMA, and then we come to P, which is a strange word. It's potentiation, but I call it potentiation and preparedness. Now think of it like this: potentiation is getting your body ready for the activity. So this was really specific when it came to playing sport, because you'll be getting your body ready to play the sport. For example, if you're a runner, you'll be starting to run and increase the tempo of the speed that you're running at. So in a gym environment, I would suggest two things. One, you want a switch or an exercise that's going to turn you on your central nervous system. Okay, so think about your central nervous system as electricity. So without any electricity, you can flick all the switches, but you're not going to get anything out of it. Okay, so that would be like doing a strength session when your central nervous system is not fired up. You just won't get your potential out of it. So when we perform some central nervous activator exercises, it's like we're turning electricity on. So now when we start flicking those light switches, we get a full burst of light, and those muscles are fired up and ready for action. Okay, so for exercise in this category, I would say things that you can be explosive with and quick with, but are also relatively safe. So things like ball slams, you've got jumps, you've got box jumps, you've got broad jumps, you've got all manner of throws. You could arguably put things like kettlebell swings in there. But again, think about what you're going to do in the session. So if you're going to do some deadlifting, then broad jumps work really well, because that is a similar movement pattern to a deadlift. If you're going to do squatting, then box jumps work really well, because obviously it's more of a vertical trajectory. And I tend to use slams or some variation of a throw regardless, but they are very good for activating the upper body, things like the lats and the chest, depending on what kind of throw you do. Okay. And then finally, we would do what we would call the old school warm-up, where the preparedness part is, if my first exercise is going to be a squat, then I'm going to start building up with a light bar, and I'm going to start adding weights and performing warm-up sets until I'm ready to perform my actual. So my dog's just not on camera. Till I'm perform my actual main exercise, okay, and the weights I'm supposed to be hitting that day. So anyway, that's what we call a ramp warm-up. Ideally, I would say 10 to 15 minutes. 15 minutes is on the longer side. You might be, if you're able to go through all this process on as short as possible time, then fantastic, all right? But do what you need to do. All I would say is, if you're spending half an hour doing this, something's a little bit out of kilter in your body. It shouldn't be taking that long to get you ready to perform a session, which might only take 30 to 40 minutes itself, okay? If you've got any questions about it, then feel free to DM me or to comment on this video. As I say, there's lots of things I've probably not covered in this, but I just wanted to give you a real quick kind of rundown on how you can prepare for your next session. And give it a go if you're not doing it already. And you may find, and hopefully you will do, that actually you can perform a lot better and more consistently in your training sessions.